Let's get it.
On the unpopular opinion, we have author of Surviving Tough Times, Misunderstood Adrian, entrepreneur, Miss Amor Blue, Tatiana, owner of Mental Massage, Melinda, your host, Stradivari, on the unpopular opinion. So let me ask you, ladies, I definitely want to know about Nick Saban and Deion Sanders. The Breonna Taylor story and how the
$15,000 come
deep
from
in
this.
the heart of Texas on the Sisters Op. Hey, we got a new man in town.
So, welcome to the Sisters Hour. Today's show is going to be a serious occasion. Got a lot to talk about here, which will fulfill you with a couple of things that you might not know tonight. Tonight is a big show on knowledge of self and understanding what other people do around you. And that's kind of a weird approach that we're going to talk about, whether you're looking ahead and what's around you. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit on the Sisters Op. Tonight's show, we're definitely going to, kind of go in tonight. I really want to talk tonight. The first pick of my poison would be my Deion Sanders versus Nick Saban. Now, Nick Saban, definitely came out there and put something really out there. He really, pretty much said, hey, y'all are paying for players. Who do y'all think is the best athlete out of everyone? Is it him or Mr. Dion? Because I'm telling you right now, the versus mode of the HBCU experience, I can't really understand the Jackson State versus Nick Saban in Alabama, who's paying for players is just because you're mad that he's starting to get the number one athletes in all of the schools. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit on the Sisters Op with a new person. Congratulations. How you doing there, Mr. Dion Russ? How you doing there, sir? It's good to see you.
Panel. I've been watching this, and I feel like it's a privilege to be up here to meet these lovely ladies here, and of course you, Stray. So.
Well, we definitely want to see what's going on with this HBCU Jackson State. This shout out, this call out on $1 million. Are you paying for players? Miss Melinda, I'm just, jumping you in on the ship. What do you think about Jackson State and Alabama? Nick Saban kind of like saying, hey, you paying for the best players to come to this school.
Mm. It's utterly absurd to me, and this is coming from a non-HBCU where we were pretty heavily penalized in our very well known Fab Five program at the University of Michigan. And I happen to also know the booster that was in reference, right, for various different reasons, because I was involved with folks who were involved with the Webbers at the time. I just think it's absurd, and I love that Deion Sanders had the presence of mind to say what he said, because frankly, I've had that type of experience outside of the sports arena, where somebody wanted to say something disparaging, assassinate your character in public, but then wanted to try to privately fix it. Huh? How'd that work? So I'm glad that he did what he did. And as far as it relates to paying players, again, coming from a program where just a big program, right? A big sports program at the University of Michigan. I was a little kid, 18, 19 years old, saying, why can't they get paid? Like at the end of the day, the purpose of college is to go to school and make a means to your career. And largely those kids are doing that through their sport. Um, and they're making a lot of money for the school, and they're essentially owned by the school. It's almost like a military style operation, right? So I've always been in favor of it. And I actually happen to work with the owner of the Next Level Sport Entertainment broadcast network, which put out a press release, I believe with ESPN. I was just looking it up, probably about 8 to 9 months ago about getting HBCU players paid. So there's, I guess, a whole industry around making sure that there's coverage for them. And I forget which athlete that went in on it with him, but I'm in favor of folks, particularly who look like us, um, getting a semblance, a corner, a smidget of what goes on all day and all night. And Alabama is just a program that's an example of that.
Okay. What about you, Miss Tatiana? How do you think about the HBCU experience? I'm taking this as how do you feel about Dion and his pushback towards Nick Saban? Uh-oh. You there, Miss Tatiana?
Yeah, I'm here.
How do you feel about the Nick Saban and everything? How do you feel about Deion Sanders actually? What is your take on him? How do you feel about him talking about it?
Um,
You think
I
Jackson
feel
State
like
is
Dion,
any players?
uh, most I don't want to say they did or didn't, but it's suspected. So, um, when I think about the whole apology thing, I always say your apology should be as loud as the disrespect was. Don't be trying to like hide behind what you've done in the dark, then because it's been figured out. I I like what Deion Sanders has, the forefront that he has put out um for black people and for HBCUs. And like Miss Melinda said, we definitely earn the right to the same thing. Um, they make a lot of money, players make a lot of money for their teams. Um, even being in the college, and yes, it is supposed to be for them to go to college, but I think it's um unfair that so many people always are able to make money off of somebody else and they're never able to get anything for it. Um, Kind of almost like it makes me think about how we can't get generational wealth because they play they pay other people or make sure they're paid in another way. So it definitely need to be discussed and needs to be figured out so that that can be fairly done.
Okay. Oh, now, Mr. Dion, how do you actually feel about this whole process on the Deion Sanders versus Nick Saban?
Oh my
Do you
God.
think Nick actually is paying players? That's why he feel the same way.
You know what? Now that you say it like that, it could be a possibility. But I must say I agree with Melinda because I feel like if you're gonna say something, make it public. Like I really do feel about. I really feel strongly about that. But at the same time, um, people that tend to be bold can't really that act like they're bold can't really do it out in the front anyway. It's usually a front. But um, I I don't agree with the pay. However, I feel like it's if you know how many people make the NFL, like it takes what, just like the NBA. How many people really make it?
I mean, they gotta have a 53-man roster, and it's people that play on the team for over 10 years. So
Mm-hmm.
the average is probably like maybe like 9 to 10%
Okay.
would come out. Like they would start out with maybe like a small contract, and then if they go in the first round, they definitely getting like 4 years. But if they're not good, they don't really have a contract. Most NFL players don't make it past 10 years though.
Wow.
That's why the draft and all of these different injuries, all of that stuff turns around to probably a hard. A lot of players do get picked at first, but they get weeded out throughout the playing of the game.
Okay.
So in the NFL, it all depends on how good you are actually. To really be
So
honest,
it's straight like that. It's how good you are, and that's what they're aspiring to, right? I'm assuming that these players are all aspiring to join the NFL.
Right. Well,
for the money and the
I
fame,
think
right?
now it's a different way. You can definitely go into the NFL a lot different than you can go into the NFL before. Like before, it wasn't a lot of players from the HBCU experience to actually go into the NFL. Now they have somebody like Deion Sanders where he has like a stacked team. I mean, they have to kind of like beat. They have to be like the Appalachian states. They have to kind of beat these premier schools. You can't have the number one players on the team and not be the premier school. That's just not gonna work. It's just you got to really beat the Michigan. Jackson State got to beat Michigan. You know what I mean? They got to do something like I think you got a dynasty no matter who you play. How about that? So if they do that like for 3 years in a row, they beat they'll play at Alabama and they beat at Alabama and they do it 3 years in a row, then they can get ranked. Other than that, they no HBCU will ever get ranked. It has to be like a 3 year never losing season. And you had to be able to beat somebody that was ranked at the top tier schools like a Miami, anybody that's ranked like a Georgia. If you beat Georgia, then but
So, but but Mr. Dion, you said you don't think they should get paid. What do you think? So you
Well, I
mean
mean,
you want to eliminate all of the booster activity in
I
the
just
sports
it's
and
not.
college
I don't.
athletics?
I'm kind of in between. I'm thinking about maybe it's because all right, from a person that only I played baseball. I never played football or anything like that. But when I played baseball, I wanted to make the major league. I mean, I really wanted to make that's something that was something I wanted to do. You know, I mean, it's a plus to get the money, maybe, but at the same time, I don't. I didn't play baseball. I didn't end up playing baseball. Like I kind of end up. I became a teacher. I mean, there might be other things for that kid to might aspire in doing besides that sport. What if they just it just the money just don't sound right to me. I just feel like it
but if
shouldn't
you're a
be
great player, you getting money. That's just how.
either. Well, yeah,
So Dion, you telling me if you was the best trombone player at Dell State, you wouldn't expect to have your a room, or you wouldn't expect to be a music
Right,
major?
they're giving them all these extra incentives at other schools that are putting them in wealth in front of it's not it is a monetary thing, but it's always not a monetary thing. If you look at what other people are getting, quality of life,
okay.
those things, like that's why they should be getting paid, because you look at a HBCU student, you look at a student that goes to a predominantly white school. What's the difference? They're being set up even to come out better than our students are.
And that's
Like,
true.
and
That's
that's
true.
why I said the generational wealth part of this is the issue, because that's another means of how they're working the system
Mm-hmm.
to work it against one and the other not get. That's why I feel like the money should be there even more, because then that kind of alleviates that issue across the board about that.
So let me ask a question, because the reality of the fact is, and I told that story about the Webbers, so Chris, and at that time David was playing. That's how I know the booster. It's the same booster. And there was one basketball team. There are a couple of basketball teams that are outside of the school system, right? So like an AAU kind of type deal that every player that went to the NBA played for, right? So it's a rite of passage, right? Like there's a progression to it. And I have a situation right now where I know the father of a 10-year-old, right? Who is that 10-year-old has probably more video than some high school students. He's already being recruited by, I'm in DC, so the big schools, right? That are the big independent schools that bring the black kids in and pay, give them the $50,000 program so they can play. He is already ranked top 10 in the country as a quarterback, a 10-year-old quarterback. And so it's no different, right, than any other sport. If we think about Tiger Woods or Serena and Venus, they start early, right? So he's raising an NFL player. The boy gets massages every week. He does yoga, right? Like it's all about building this NBA player. And it starts super early. So to Ms. Tatiana's point, that the compensation and incentives start long before you even get to college now, these days. And we're really talking about a system that is intricate, right? It's intricate. And so you either say, oh, I'm going to fix the system, which good luck with that. It's like saying fix the government. Or you say, I'm going to make sure my people get a semblance of the same opportunity. And that's what I'm in favor of. But is it the case that the reason why HBCUs are not able to kind of pay to play because they don't have money? Is that the right? They don't have the endowments. They don't have the
right. Well, like say like I will always put it towards say like Delaware State and University of Delaware. They might be in the same conference, but not in the same conference. They played like in the divisional championship game. They would play each other, but they're in the same conference technically to me, just on a whole nother side. They get a lot more money, maybe like millions, maybe like 100 millions more than an HBCU school. Delaware State probably get like 3. They probably get like 7. You know what I mean? So that type of overprice, overpay, over endowment is exactly the main thing that we're speaking of. It just makes no sense.
It's probably more endowment. So, for example, if you look at the last football season, I went to Michigan, right? So I know Ohio State well, unfortunately. If you remember, the University of Cincinnati was in the top 3 the playoff, and I was like, "How is that possible?" They were like, "Oh, that dude been down there building that program." University of Cincinnati, like for real? Where they come from? So I don't really fully have a great understanding. I think I know endowments make the difference in academic programs. That just means you have really, 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 really rich people who give back to school, right? Like, and tell you almost what to do with this money.
Oh,
So I'm gonna give you, I don't remember some of the biggest, I mean, they're obvious, some of the biggest endowments, but I didn't know sports worked the same way. And for me, that it gets into what Ms. Tatiana said, right? At the end of the day, it's all systematic and systemic, right? So you wouldn't, if you have the best player on, because I remember this is a big deal when Howard was getting some people some kind of way on an HBCU team. It does not make sense that he wouldn't have the same opportunities because he's still the best player, right? If he's the best player in the country, he's the best player in the country. It doesn't make sense that if he were at Alabama or USC or some other program, Michigan, right? Ohio State, he would be having access to capital. But just because he went to this school that just doesn't have access to capital, he's not going to. What that sets the system sets up for then is those players never will go to these schools so that they can build a program, which seems to be like everything else that we deal with, right?
Right.
Make sure you don't have powerhouse programs built at these schools.
But everybody else can have it.
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't add up to me. I can't stand it. I'm like, you just take the best dude out of everybody else and make him great at this school, but he can't be great somewhere else. He can't be great at Dell State. He can't be great at Howard. He can't be great at Hampton. He can't be great at Southern. Can't be great at Grambling. Like, come on. Doesn't make sense. It's not adding up. But I digress. Let's go a little bit further into the mind sense of what's going on in the world right now. And technically, I do want to go a little bit in on the Breonna Taylor case and the $15,000 that was actually missing in the home after she was shot and killed in her own home. So, I do want to ask, I want to go back to Miss Melinda on that one. It just doesn't fathom me that everything happened like a movie. What was that? The Frank Lucas movie where they just came, ransacked him, killed him off, and took his money. It just seems like it's just a recycling occurrence that this is happening. is this a good thing? Is this a good thing? Can we do we feel protected no matter our money can't even be protected when we die? What are we doing, Miss Melinda, on this
It's age old. I hit up a person of mine who is an activist, and I think spent some time in federal prison running dope, like what was called back in the day with Rayford, I guess here, and whoever was the big New York guy. Um, but is a law-abiding citizen now with a family that has access to a lot of resources because this country is what it is. Uh, and I said, "Hey, did you hear about the police stole uh, 15 stacks that night? When they shot and killed Brianna?" And I'm looking at the response, and he said, "I told everyone that was a little night rip. That's what cops call it. They thought they were going to run in the apartment and find this, chick alone. Heard her talking on the phone to the dude, the mastermind, and guess that's where the drugs or money was." So I say all that to say, it's just it's what it is, right? The police are what they are, and more importantly, why are we just not finding out about that? It's what we deal with.
That makes perfect sense.
Covered up in documentation. It was covered up in documentation. When they printed out the paperwork, it was blanked out. They had the pages, but the pages were blanked out.
Of course. Of course. Of course. I mean, it's to me, all this is just making me feel numb. I see it every day. I mean, you see a cop innocently just kill an innocent black person each and every day. It's like it's you. I mean, you get numb to it. I mean, I'm not saying it's good or anything, but I mean, it just you see it every. I'm seeing it every single day, literally. Someone's getting shot, someone's getting killed, and we're our main targets. So at this point, only thing I've been doing with my family, because my family of all colors, is I have to pray over all of them and hope that they come back. The discussions I have with my black and brown children are different from what discussions that Caucasian children have with their kids about police or just period about life, and it's just messed up. That's just how it is right now, and it's just jacked up.
Okay. Okay, so y'all all in agreement on it. You just none of y'all feel protected at all right now.
At all, not at
No,
all.
because they're able to like bend the law to be able to do what they want. There's like that code of silence that allows people to do. And when there are officers that decide to speak out, as we have seen videos within the last few years, they have there was a woman one in exact. She ran up on the man because he was hurting the person and was
Yeah.
like, that's not necessary. And they literally turned on her. And it wasn't until somebody came to her defense that it was, dissolved. But it's like it's our word against theirs. It's you don't feel safe that you pay for somebody. I mean, for them to be here in your community because if they don't like what you're doing or what you're saying, that it can simply be twisted. um Biggest thing I always talk about when we get on here is giving the knowledge. Like I try to give my kids the knowledge. A lot of people are like, "Oh, you can't do anything." I'm like, "But my mom gave me the knowledge in the time being. It wasn't always just right in your face. It was kind of like everyday things that you learn. But we got to give our kids the knowledge because you cannot send them out here to play, what I'm saying, to play a game that they're not ready for. Like
Mm-hmm.
we're not giving them the tools, we're not telling them the laws, and you can't be out here playing, as they say, playing checkers and they're playing chess. And that's where we're at this point because people get into this thing about what's right and what's wrong and what's legal and what's not, and we're just at a disadvantage, but we're disadvantaging ourselves at the same time by not giving the knowledge to be able to work within the confines of these systems. I mean, it's not going to work all the time, but it's just something that we have to think about all the time. Like Dion said, it's something we always think about. Other people aren't thinking about that, but we need to try to do what we can in the time being, even though it may seem futile.
Why?
Is there a counter argument, or somebody would say that this is appropriate that the cops took the money? I'm just trying to understand.
No, because that's been a thing, Melinda. That we've seen multiple things where stuff comes up missing, and these is regular cases of people having $1,500, $2,300, and them showing that they can prove where the money came from, and they still just money just disappears, just don't ever come back. Cars don't come back. I mean, the list goes on. The list goes on and on. I mean, it starts small where it's like, oh, they come to your house, you got $1,500, which may not seem a lot to anybody, but that's my rent money. $1,500 and the stuff in their house, they take or they damage and they don't. So it starts off small and it gets bigger. And who's checking you? Who's checking?
I don't even know what in this story was. This one of the stories one of the cops had sexual assault. I just read. I mean, there's so many. It was a story that a high profile story. One of the cops had the sexual assault cases.
Right, and he got off.
And he got off on them.
And he got off on him. Yes, that.
So it's just, that's what the cops did. You know what it made me think about too was strategy. I sent a story out about the mass shootings. That was the characterization. Mass shootings.
Yeah, I remember that.
Well, part of the articles that talked about that was a street person, right, that lives there, similar to this guy I'm talking to, that was like, yeah, but we all know that, you know, how many stories are there where you find in Chicago boxes of guns just sitting in the middle of the alley. We know where that come from. So again, like it just all goes with the system. I'm just trying to argue. I understand if somebody's saying, "Oh, it's good if they found the money, they should have it because they don't have no money." I mean, what would be the argument?
No, because if we find right now, we go over to this little casino and we find some money, and somebody said they missing, and we just took stolen property. Ain't nobody hearing that.
Yeah, I just don't even think there's any possible.
No, there's
not. It's not.
It's none. It's none.
I mean, it's
even if the money being unaccounted for is a crime.
Yeah, it's multiple things. I'm about to say it's the money coming unaccounted for is like 4 crimes.
So it's like
because that's obstruction of justice.
So when they searched for it and they found it, then what?
They were supposed to put that into evidence. That was supposed to be turned into. That was supposed to be one of the evidence pieces within her case. So now you have obstruction of justice, you have stolen property, and then you have 2 of the misdemeanors afterwards. Oh no, I pay attention.
And the worst part about it is now that you're not here no more, how about what if you stashed all this money away for something that happens to you in your life and the cops just take it?
Yeah. Wow.
Now you're like, oh, he got to GoFundMe, but he had all of this money.
Who do you trust when you can't trust the police? I'm telling you. I don't trust
no hide stuff under your mattress no more. This ain't. You can't do that anymore. I
thought that's where you had to put the money. You know, we're in the bear market.
You can't hide it under your mattress.
We're in the bear market. We're in the bear market.
No, Melinda, you gotta put that thing in a lock.
We're in a bear market.
Not the bear market.
Right now. You might want to have.
You gotta cement that joint in a lock safe so they can't get it out. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be on Ocean's 11 type to secure your money at this.
Any black safe manufacturers? I'm looking for a gun and money.
All of that. You're a whole safe. What product? Somebody to build it, put it in, or something like that.
I need a whole bunch of things. I need some generators. I need a whole lot. This shit here is gone haywire. It's gone. It's gone. It ain't going. It's gone.
You setting up Walking Dead style, Ms. Melinda?
Oh yeah, you got to. You know, I'm in Ward 8. I'm in Marion Barry's ward, so it don't get no rougher. But it's a scary time, and it goes back to what Mr. Dion said, because I had a conversation with my 11-year-old son this morning, mainly because there had been I guess I was looking it up. I guess as they said, it's an unfounded report of a story of some people going into Walmart. They said here in Bowie, Maryland, to shoot uh, black people is what it said. So it sounded like a copycat um, thing. But what we just had happen with the school, uh, my son goes to a school that is unabashedly about black boys, and it's a school of little black boys, right? And so it made me think, man, if you had somebody who was trying to do something like that, they would be a very big target.
Yeah.
So I just told him that he needs to keep his head on a swivel. I didn't get into it.
That's it.
I just say, hey, it's some people that's been going around just like literally looking to shoot black people. And he's like, really? And my son is super sensitive, so he's like, where? And I didn't get into it. I was just like, just know, you better keep your head on a swivel. That's all you can do.
And the fact that we could say that, this the fact that saying that is hurtful right now. You know what I mean? Like the times in which we all grew up in, it was bad, but it wasn't like this though.
Not true.
I don't. It was like it was. It just feel like like times has really done changed, like really really much so, like it's crazy.
It really, actually, you know what? I'm gonna be honest with you. It really hasn't changed, Dion.
You don't think so?
No, I agree with Strad. No, I think we've made some progress, because you can say and you can read in the media they are going to kill black people. That's a shame. Like that didn't used to happen.
At least you can see it on a video now, and you can at least capture your moment of you passing away. At least you got that much. So it's two different spectrums, because when I was in school, one of the smartest kids in the school got shot at our school. It was the first shooting that ever happened, and it's really the reason why they have administrators now in that district of that school. But the simple fact that somebody came on a bus just because he had a coat on, an Eddie Bauer jacket, just to take the jacket off, he like, take your jacket off and shoot him for his jacket, is a simple way of why people wear uniforms now. That's why, Miss Melinda, when you was like, I don't know about uniforms and all that, I was like, this is the simple fact that I beg for them to have uniforms so they can't judge each other's what they have on, how they are actually, becoming people. I just really don't want them to be judged. I only want them to think the whole time. I don't want nobody to look at their clothing. It's just so fathoms me how this one event happened to me, and it's like a picture that painted in my mind that I could have been out there 4 seconds from me having band practice. I go outside to see, hey, what's going on, just to open the door. That happens. They like close the door. I'm like, we gotta close the door, y'all. Let's close the door before, let's just go to band. So as we go into bands, an event happens where the kid loses his life over a jacket, and that event is a global event of what's happening right now. And still we're a little soft on the moment, meaning you can't protect kids at a school environment. They're the first in line to job this world, get this world. They're the next in line to the new generation to build this world to what it is. Why can't we protect them first in line to protect ourselves? It doesn't make sense that we just let anybody go anywhere. Like now we need fences. You need 2 lines before you even go into the school. It's going to take a tougher time. It just makes it uneasy for people. And the simple fact that the guy actually really kind of started doing it because he wasn't graduating from the school and stuff like that, it hurts my soul that this is happening to younger people in our age and our time. It doesn't make sense. It wasn't happening then. So
I don't even know the motive, but I'm going to get with Mr. Dion on one thing, right? Like, so what you described to me is a different situation. It's kind of like we talked about with gang violence versus how we typically classify mass shootings. And my statement was, typically mass shootings are ideological. Whereas the stuff that we're talking about, there was a reason, whether unfounded or not, that is monetary based, that's materialistically based for why this person shot this person. It wasn't just because I don't like black people. That's a different type of mentality. It's ideological, is what it is, right? Because some people, it happens in other countries a lot more frequently, or used to be a lot more frequently than it is here. Right.
okay.
And so to Dion's point, I don't remember that type of thing happening, and I don't even know why. Right? Maybe it did. Right? I wasn't dialed in. I don't remember the ideological thing.
And they said that they don't know why Facebook didn't block him. You know how they block everybody else for saying things and doing things?
Yeah, I didn't got blocked. I'm up to like a month the next time.
But they didn't block him.
And that was for saying like something about Trump.
So anything about Trump you get blocked, but you tell people that you're gonna take everybody out of here and you don't get blocked for that?
Pretty much.
I'm not
I should know. I'm blocked right now. I'm blocked on.
Are you blocked right now?
I'm warned. I got a warning on TikTok right now because I go after Trump tards. That's what I call them. So, I mean, if I see something that is racist or just flat out racist and TikTok allows, I go in, and that's how I get my followers.
So TikTok is protecting Trump when Trump actually banned TikTok in the government. I know, I'm in it. Right, my son even knows about it. That's why he still doesn't have TikTok.
Yeah, you're right. But and then main reason why Trump was trying to my thing is I think Trump was trying to stop it because TikTok gets information fast. Like, I mean, not saying Facebook doesn't, but I can actually see like the war on live. I mean, it's a lot more information that goes like from all over parts of the world. For me, it's accessible more on TikTok. It's more easy to see versus going on Facebook. And that's why I think Trump wanted to shut the joint down, because he's like, these people are going to know what's really going on. Like I always said, like the news and everything is different. Our news here is full of, I really don't believe like 95% of the crap that the news tell us. I believe what other countries, I've heard their versions, and usually because actually I used to teach English to with a group. It's an online group called Cambly. And what you do is you talk to the students that want to learn to speak English. You guys actually have conversations, and you talk to people from China. You talk to people from all different parts of the world. And what they hear about the United States is completely different from what the United States has about themselves. So if you want to know the facts about the US, they will tell you. And I believe it. I mean, I really do. I really do. I feel like all these years as a kid, we've been lied to. And when I finally got a certain age, I started understanding like, how it really worked, how much we've been lied to, how much, like I've been just told a big story.
You've been lied to since Christmas.
Yeah, like, and I hear my like uncles and all of them be like saying like, I don't trust the man and this and that, but it actually is making sense. It actually makes sense. So like, it's just crazy the world we live in, where you can get approved of being a Trumpy and demean people of different colors and all of that, and you get a pass because the same thing happens on Facebook, happens on TikTok. But like they get like so much freedom. I seen blackface done over online. I seen I got attacked, but I don't know how many people are right. And now so I can't even say Trump.
You've been banned. You've been banned. Right now, you're banned from
right now. I just got a warning, and it was because I went for someone that, and this what gets me. They know how to play the algorithms. You gotta read the fine print on these social media sites. So the guy was using racial stereotypes to be racist. I hate that. You know what I mean? Well, you should be enjoying your food stamps. I wish I had food stamps. You know what I mean? Like, bro, I want food stamps. Don't assume everybody that's black got food stamps.
Yeah, but see, you get enticed to get banned. See,
no.
You don't realize
it's true. But see, that's the problem with people that have so many followers. You don't hear them talk about how it's tempting to go after these people, because it is. And I've been holding it down for a minute. But every now and then I have weakness. I'm human. You can't handle but so much. And a lot of these people, it makes me even more mad because they don't get no type of action done to them.
But see,
And
I
my
think
saying is because of the complexion for the
See,
protection. A lot of them with
I wanted to
millions
say
and millions of
Tatiana should
right,
help.
but
followers
DR,
are Caucasian.
right, but DR, we definitely have to talk about, like you say, you're getting enticed, but the problem is that they're stealing other people's material, everything, and using it. And when you say something, that's how they're getting the rollout. I honestly, DR, watching you and watching everybody else, that's how the rollout comes out, because they'll have a conversation like that, but the conversation comes because they were stealing people's material. Like the fact that they talk about, oh, this is ghetto, and they be like, no, that's y'all. And it's like it rolls out that way. So when you go on there and you just start discussing it, that's when it comes out. That's not enticing anybody, because I want to discuss about the hardships that's happening to me because you're doing it. That's not enticing anybody. How tell me how that works. So you do something to me that's taken away from me. I say something about it and now I'm banned. Make it make sense.
Wow, I
I've
can't
seen
believe you.
multiple of the creators that I like.
I can't believe we talk about getting banned right now. I can't believe it.
Well,
But
speaking of
I'm
bands,
saying
let me
that's
just
part of what I'm speaking of.
What you say, Miss Melinda?
I just want to throw one little monkey wrench in what Mr. Dion said. I don't necessarily disagree, but I do happen to know a little bit about some things, technically. And while that could have been a motive of Trump's, uh, TikTok is Chinese owned. And I thought that's where Tatiana was going.
I
Actually, it was
thought so
Tatiana.
too. I did too.
Um, so it was
Yeah, I was
much
about
bigger.
yeah, I was about to say
It's
that
much
next. It
bigger
had
than that.
nothing like it's outside of us.
And further, but my point is simply this: TikTok is also banned or heavily censored in China.
Mm.
So it's not just the US, it's everywhere. A communist nation is even more likely to control what the citizens can see. So they don't get to do what other places are get to do. And they control the narrative about what's happening in their country in every aspect, right? They have censored internet. Um,
Yeah,
so
I'll just say
uh,
the European countries definitely do it.
I'm sorry.
You said
European
European countries
countries
definitely
definitely
do.
censor, because when I go, they definitely do.
Yeah, I don't know if they since it's an open known thing in North Korea or China. That you can't speak against the
Well, I
government.
mean, I've been there. They censor music. You don't get the same music. It's different. It's not like a censorship like the way we're thinking it, but they definitely do it on a level that it's their control, what they're controlling, that their people
Right,
see.
but what I'm
Doing it right now.
saying is TikTok is not somehow, or China is not somehow better than the US with the treatment of TikTok than US is with a Facebook. It's actually kind of the same thing,
Okay.
right? So every country is going to represent its interests with its um, assets, and technology is an asset.
What I'm speaking from is from when we talking about community guidelines. There's certain things you have to go by with the guidelines. There's certain things you can say, there's certain things you can't say. When I'm saying enticed, I mean the comments, the racial comments that I get on my post.
You
A
can't
lot of
you
my,
can't you
a lot
can't
of
dig into it though. You can't
no, no,
feed
no.
into it.
You a lot of times my comments don't even be on no next level type stuff. It's the simple fact that I hashtag who I'm talking to, and to the that's what the hashtag is for. It talks to a specific amount of people. Whoever sees that hashtag or happens to use it sees that video. So like if I'm talking about Trump tards, there are other people that join these hashtags that not necessarily are for the whole Trump tard movement
Yeah, but
that comment.
that's one man, and his session is over. So I'm really being honest, Dion. His existence as of this year, upcoming a date, is about to be over. So I'm not even going to discuss him no more. That's probably why you're getting technically ousted anyway, because they like, yo, it's over. His whole existence is over. But I do before we even go, I see we having some issues, some technical difficulties. But before we even go, I do want to formally talk to you, Mr. Dion, because you kind of you're a newbie. So are you married there, sir?
Yes, I am.
So since you are married, I have a question about a couple of things on marriage. So do you believe in what is that called? The statue of if you were with somebody for like so long, you're automatically married. Do you believe in it?
If you with somebody so long, you're automatically
So
married. No,
common
I
law.
do not. I don't
Common
believe
law.
in that.
The
That's
common law.
common law marriage.
Common law.
If you live together.
If you live together, you're automatically married.
Uh-huh. Do you believe in it?
If that was the case, then I've been married a lot of times. I've lived with a person before,
Well,
and how is
You
that?
nah, but
might
you
have
gotta be married for a
by
certain
common
amount
law.
of time.
For a certain amount of time, like she was. I'm saying like for like 8 years.
7 years.
8 years, though. I mean, I've been in
Seven.
when I get in
It's 5 in
relationships, they
some
usually
states,
last
7 in
for
others.
quite some time, no more than like 3. Now,
Okay. So by me saying that, do you believe that the person, if they die before you get married, should get the money?
if they die before me, the person get married should get the money.
Before y'all got married
Before we got married,
and you passed away before y'all got married, but she was your fiance, should she get the money?
oh my God, where y'all get these questions? Oh, well, if it depends. I guess it would depend if how much in love I was in with her.
No one's gonna know that.
What you mean? You when you asking somebody to be a
I don't know
fiance? I
that.
mean,
No
Yeah, but
one's
that's not objective. That's not an objective measure. How
gonna,
much you were in love with the person?
that doesn't matter, right?
Like if you
I'm
were in love a little bit, she get a little bit.
Right.
If you was in love a
why
lot, she
would
get
you
a
ask
lot.
somebody to be your fiance
She
if you
get a little
wasn't
bit, just a little
in
bit.
love with them? That's what I'm not understanding.
Well, I'm just saying that because in the DMX case, his fiance, they have basically the family has basically taken all of the money from the fiance, the estate, the money that he had, everything. So, do you feel as though she was with him for over 8 years, and the fact
And
that
she took everything and been with him over.
the family took
Family
everything?
took everything. Oh,
The
Did she
family
have
took
kids by
everything.
DMX though? She didn't have any kids by him?
No.
no.
That's the problem because DMX had like 12 kids or something,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, somewhere he got not by her though.
That was the real problem. She didn't get that
Right.
insurance. And so that gets into a whole set
Right.
of
She
things.
didn't get
Yeah.
the deed on the house. She didn't think to get the deed on the house or something.
So,
You ain't
Miss
gotta be
Melinda,
married to get
so
the
a
deed on
child
the
is
house. You ain't
insured?
gotta be married to get the insurance money. Well,
No. Miss Melinda, a child is insurance.
Well, I was being facetious, but it's not really that facetious when you talk about levels of money. To be honest with you, like that is just a part of it. Like if you're dealing with someone who has millions and millions of dollars, and you're not going to be married to them, you're not going to get the money unless you have a child with them.
Yeah, we talking about DMX. My pockets ain't running like DMX's pockets. So.
You're just not gonna get
You
it. Though.
know?
I mean, I actually know business people, by the way, millionaire businessmen with the same situation.
Mm.
So it ain't just sports. It's just people with money, like that. You're not gonna get the money. In this situation, it's ghetto, unfortunately, because we're talking about a situation where there wasn't a trust. Was what should have been there,
Yeah.
He had
and
no
you don't
will.
have to be married. She still could have gotten money.
Yeah,
They just
he
need
had
to
no
have a legal
will.
agreement.
That was the problem. He had no will.
right.
And
That's
They
what I
need to
thought.
leave it
She
in the
didn't have her name
trust
on
because
the
he got all them
deed.
kids.
There's other things that you could do. In 2020, there's other things that you could do to get your money.
this is 2022, and you don't have a will. And I'm looking at everybody, not only you, me, Tatiana, but you don't have something in place for your family. Then you better think about the time right now. If you see the show, if you ever looked at this show, you better start thinking about your assets. It's the most important thing that you have. If you have nothing and you leave with nothing, you're giving everybody with nothing. But technically, if you, no one knows where your money is. Like I've said this a million times. No one knows when if you're gone right now, no one knows where that money is. Like you got all this money on your phone, you got all this money in this bank. Nobody knows it's right there. And how are you gonna even know unless it's in your pocket or something? It's like really kind of weird. You have to really understand what we really trying to do right now. That's why I'm trying to figure out my friends. I'm like, if any of my friends go, what are we gonna do? Like, I don't want to see them, and I don't want to be the one to bear the burden. Nor I should see anybody asking for the burden. We should really think about each other. Like, think about the people around you. It's not making sense that you don't think about the people around you. Just let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a problem. That's been a real big problem to me. When your family, when things hit the circle, you just now seeing your family. You ain't seen them for 8, 9 years, 20 years, and now you seeing them at the time of
That
somebody
goes
else.
back to the conversation, right? But that's the conversation we go to about building wealth and it being within the school system and it being systematic that you're taught that in certain cultures or lifestyles to be ready, like, or to have more to pass on to the person behind you. Not every, well, I want to say Americans think like that because that's the only, think that far ahead. They're just thinking about today, what they have to do to get through it, and not making sure that they leave wealth behind for us to continue to grow. But other races, religions, and cultures are thinking about that. And as you see the difference in the dynamic. Even though we are behind, that doesn't mean we still can't get into the race. It's a marathon.
Miss Melinda, you what about your dynamic on this one? You think it's the right thing to do to just stay in the just stay with the man and try to stick it out until he dies? What is your
Oh, that's a different part of the question that I'll just say. Maybe that depends on the love part Dion talking about if you stay with him or not. Um, but I think you have to be very cognizant of the current law. So marriage is a legal construct, technically. It is to provision for, and there are benefits that us single people don't get because we're not married. It's to provision for these things in an automatic way. So if you're not married, then you have to know there's no automatic way. So you got to put the legal provisions in place to
mm,
have those things. You just have to. Having children in this country, there is it's provisions for how things get dealt with when they're around. That's just how it is. The law already has some stuff in place, but if it's not, so for me, it's a whole lot. Everything depends on if you should or shouldn't say or demand what you should demand. In the case of DMX, I'm liking that more too, and I like the fact that we started out with talking about football and systematic racism related to it. Um, it more is a part of the uh, Willie Lynch type concept where I'm gonna get these folks who from the hood, right? And so you're not changing the mindset. I'm gonna give them a bunch of money, right? It's no different with a DMX type deal and his drug battles and whatever. But I'm not gonna teach him, to Miss Tatiana's point, financial literacy, um, financial wealth building, and financial management. And so I know for a fact that in the NBA and maybe also in the NFL, for NBA, I know it was other people got together and started teaching the same way as you grooming these little boys. Like I just talked about a 10-year-old, right? 11. He's actually 11. You need to also be talking to them about financial management. And so that has started to happen kind of, I think, within the communities because it was so obvious that situations like this were occurring, right? With um, professional players, they get all of this money, they have no sense of how to manage money, they blow it, they waste it, and they end up, dying or getting out of the league and broke. It was like, well, what the hell? How is this possible? Well, because you didn't change the person, you just gave them a lot of money. Money is not going to give you skills to manage and fight and to build wealth. So DMX was of that ilk in a sense. And it's like, well, where were the people or where was the woman? Shit. I mean, even in that, like, okay, look, I'm dealing with somebody who like, not to bring up something tangential, but I just feel like it's a similar situation. Like a R. Kelly who's illiterate. You can't read. You cannot read. How you can't read today? Like, huh? Okay, not to be like that because what's her name couldn't read that won the American Idol.
Wait, whoa. Time.
Yeah, they couldn't read.
So what happened?
We're not teaching. She's going to the point that we're not teaching what you need to teach. We're not teaching a foundation to get any further. They make it through not reading because they don't want you to read. They don't want you to learn.
But
they don't
you
want
get a
you
bunch
to
of
learn.
money.
Can't read, Miss Melinda. Who are you talking about? A man? You met a man that can't read?
No, R. Kelly is
if you're not reading at a high school level,
no, R. Kelly was like real illiterate.
Illiterate.
Like,
why
do
people get mad and make it? Let's say it right, Miss Melinda, because people get upset that he can't read. You're leading at a 7th or 8th grade level, and you are an adult. You are
Floyd Mayweather can't read.
Yeah, I mean, you can't
read. That means you can't comprehend.
We right to
Dion knows it. You know you can't comprehend.
That's not even illiterate. These people are probably not on an even 8th grade level, because 8th grade level you actually can.
But that's what I was just making that as an example of telling people how they say what illiteracy and not being able to read is.
But Fantasia and R. Kelly couldn't read kids' books, not 8th grade,
right?
Both.
You know, they were like the Fantasia was like 5th grade. I think she was like, they said she was on like 4th, 5th grade level.
Her story, she said herself, like, I was trying to read stuff, struggling with reading with my daughter and her daughter at that time. So all that to say, Fantasia wasn't wealthy at that time, right? So when she did the right thing, when her money came, she said, okay, I'm gonna go figure out how to read. Okay, got it. But R. Kelly was quite wealthy. Can't read, yeah. So all that to say, who were we just talking about? Whoever this other person, DMX, there, just because you make a lot of money don't mean that you know how to manage money. So it's just a part of the system, right? Like, give them a whole bunch of money and let them go buy ice and cars and whatever and wear it. In fact, you get targeted if you're trying to build wealth. That's why you got to do that stuff almost quietly.
Oh wow, really? You gotta build wealth in silence, Miss Melinda?
I ain't say silence. Quiet is not silence, but you got to move a certain way in this country. When you are Black and brown and and doing certain things.
Well, see this. I think some teachers pass others through when they have trouble reading. That's not absolutely true. Like in my school, when it comes to actual piano play, I know who can play and who can't. So I don't think pass.
Now you know good and well that they are passing kids that don't have no business passing to the next grade, and the pandemic is greatly. I'm gonna go down this line right now, and the pandemic is great because some of them kids did not come on that Zoom, they did not do the work, and they were passed into the next grade, and that is exactly the same thing. You did not shake your head. You were sitting here with two. We know good and well that they did. Dion,
yeah,
the Zoom,
you're right.
You did it.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And
they passed them on. They said, "Oh, they got in this class."
I didn't do
that. You didn't, but it happened. Just because it's not your experience don't mean it didn't happen.
The system did it. And I will say, in the case of the pandemic, that's tricky. That's hard because everybody kind of didn't learn to the level that they would have otherwise learned. It was very school and state and dependent, and so how you would systematically apply it almost was like everybody really needed to, they lost 2 years, period. And so everybody almost had to re-baseline.
Woo. And it's hard for them too. It's hard for them to bring it back. It's probably been the hardest experience I've had as a teacher in a long run, that they can't even bring it back. Like it's not the whole generation though. It's not a whole grade. It's just some of their mentality and how they think is just really changing. How are they really going to go to the next level thinking the way they do right now?
But to Miss Tatiana's point, like, we know how to do intervention. I mean, we could have.
Do we?
I mean, I don't know if we do it well, but we definitely know when is needed, right? And so
Right.
really there should have been a pandemic intervention that meant you might have needed to go to school at night, whatever, right? Like, I don't know, right? As opposed to just ignoring that you kind of missed 2 years of or whatever.
We really missed 2 years of going outside doing anything. I never even noticed how much that affected the brain of
Yeah, but
every
that was
kid.
I say that because the only reason why I'm gonna tell you this. The
Well,
thing I'm trying to get to you is I have students who have gone on and their parents were at home, they were reading, they were doing hookah. So you can't sit here and tell me that a same student that the other student didn't have access to it when they live in the same neighborhood, which happens at the same time. As a parent, you were supposed to pick up them pieces. And even government said, and people said, I'm just saying, and people, you can roll your eyes if you want to. The school is not a place for your children. They're a place for your children to learn, but they are not the only place for your children to learn. There are some things that you're going to have to teach your children, and there's some places that you're going to have to pick up the pieces where the school leaves off, regardless whether you want to or not. So you can shake your head. It's one of the reasons, I'm telling you right now, it's one of the reasons I don't have kids, because I knew for a fact that the school would not always be able to do everything, and I would have to put some things in place because my mother put them in place for me the same way when I was younger. So you could sit here and say, oh, the school is supposed to do this. That's the problem. You sitting here acting like we second parents, and we're not. We are teachers. You're supposed to enforce things, make the foundation so that when those children came back to school, they knew how to sit down, they knew how to listen. They didn't do any of that. They were unruly for 2 years. Some kids were unruly. Who in here right now, raise their hand, had their parents make them do a book report when they was younger for no reason?
I got punished a
Or
lot.
made you do a math book, or made you do some type of work in the summer because they wanted to keep your mind sharp. Okay, so that's the thing. The school won't always be there to help you fall through. I understand that European countries and other countries have that, thing where they believe in education, but it comes sourced from the parents. And that's the thing. At times when the school can't do, you have to pick up. And it's point blank, period. You are a parent.
I agree with you, Tatiana, because I'm listening to you guys talk about y'all schools, and straight I'm hearing about yours. My school is so different. Like, I think it depends on the district. I hear those conversations behind the scenes. Like I said, I'm a behavior specialist. Before I was a behavior specialist, I was a preschool teacher and I was a one-on-one. So I hear what the principal and them say. A lot of those kids do get pushed. And right now, in the school that I work at, a lot of kids are getting pushed because of behavior problems. And I fought the parents. And the reason why I fought the parents and the teachers sometimes. It depends on who the teachers are. Some teachers aren't even engaging or trying to build a relationship with the parent, period. And I get it. We get parents that aren't as friendly. But when it comes to the kid, if you let that be known straight from the conversation that this is about your son, Tommy, you don't got to like me, but at the end of the day, I'm working with your kid. You need to work with me. There is none of that. And these schools don't encourage the relationship to be closer, but and I don't like it. And where I work at, it's like it's a lot of things that are done simply because of the parents complaining about X, Y, and Z. I think that a lot of these districts are soft on the children now. And I've seen it. We're now you have to explain to Tommy why it's not nice to cut Susie with scissors and see how he's feeling. I mean, you cut Susie with scissors, she's gonna bleed. You're gonna hurt her. I mean, it's too much. It's like we go in depth too much with certain behaviors when we don't need to. It's not as difficult. And I've been doing this for a while. And I thank God because I'm good at what I do. I'm not trying to toot my horn or anything, but it's like they don't discipline these children like they should be. We give them too many chances. And in order for you to learn from a mistake, you got to make the mistake. And I mean, for you to learn not to make the mistake again, you have to know the rule. It's got to be a rule put in place. But I don't think these schools stick to any type of a real discipline. And then the parents act. We like half the time, just like you said, Tatiana. We teachers, they act like we're superheroes. Like we're just supposed to be teachers all day long. I have kids of my
Right? Like,
own that
where are
I
we
go
supposed to
home
put
and
our
teach.
kids? That's the
Yeah,
first thing they said. They'd be like, "Where are we supposed to put our kids during the day? They gotta go somewhere." And we're like,
but I build a
"Well,
relationship so well with my parents that I can have those type of conversations and they understand where I'm coming from. That's why I said the relationships with the parents and the teachers have to be somewhat intact. You got to find a common ground with whatever that ghetto parent is. And at the end of the day, it's about the kids, right? And that's why I bring it all down to it's about your son. This is what we're talking about. So you feel this way about your son. And there's been instances that I've met with parents that didn't care about their kids, really didn't give a damn. And it's sad to say, but that's where we come in at as well as teachers. Sometimes we got to be the fill in. You know how many kids don't have dads, and I'm a male teacher. Like it's sad to say, but it happens. And
So, can I ask? You're hitting on it. I'm the only non-educator on the call. I emphatically disagree that that over the pandemic somehow a parent was supposed to turn over into the teacher, and so you guys have both. Um, and I know the spaces now that you've mentioned, Mr. Dion, where you work, and I'm quite familiar with it because my son has an IEP for different reasons that are not behavior. And I actually hate that the conversation about academics oftentimes with our children devolve into a conversation about behavior. And I actually do think that the classroom and the academics get bogged down with behavioral issues, and that's a different question. But teaching and academics and getting a lesson and learning is not necessarily equal to that. And so the reason that public education is because I pay taxes. And so if I was supposed to just step in and do what teachers are supposed to do, then I feel like my colleague that was out in the suburbs that was livid that her 5-year-old couldn't go to school and demanded that her taxes should come back and the teacher should be fired because they weren't doing anything with her 5-year-old online, and she should just employ teachers herself or give them money herself, then she would have a point if that was it. Like, oh, well, you should just pick it up because you're a teacher. No,
well,
you're
we're
not.
not saying pick up teaching.
about
I didn't say never said pick up teaching. I said pick up the skills like social skills, other stuff. Kids can't even sit still right now. Like Miss Melinda, your kid is in a different realm. But I didn't think of just teaching. I'm talking about the kids had no foundation. They weren't taking baths. We're talking about down to your social skills, not taking baths in their pajamas, not getting up in the morning, no routine, not cleaning. You can't do that for 2 years and then walk back in a classroom and think that we're about to be able to teach nothing. So I almost never even expected parents to teach. I expected them to take on the role that they needed to as a parent. That's what I originally said. Take on their role as a parent. Come in. If they weren't going to get on the computer, they should be clean when they get up. They should be fed. Our kids are eating in front of the computer at 11 o'clock. They're grazing all day like cows. They have no understanding of even going to a door, holding the door, saying thank you, please. Like all of those things are so intricate inside of a building. We have 1,000 kids in our building. I don't know how many everybody else says. You coming with a whole bunch of rude people in the morning. How's that going to play out? So for me, when I say pick up the pieces, know that the school system might not always be there for that part, but there were other things that could be done, and none of that has been done. It's almost like we've never got a hold of behaviors because you don't even know how to behave like a socialized person of the things that we do normally. Just your normal situation. So I get what you're saying, and y'all being like I definitely believe parents should have got money or whatever that source. But at the same time, I felt like when we walked back into the classroom, they's like, oh, my kid can't sit still. Why would they be able to sit still on a computer for 10 minutes? 15 minutes, 20
Well,
minutes.
with your case, Miss Melinda, because I work with a lot of children with IEPs, I'm going to say I agree with you with that, only because I have kids that can't sit at a laptop and do just like you said. But see, just like you said, your child will be different than any other. There's other children that don't have IEPs. So what I ended up doing is, being that I have a background with working with kids with IEPs, I would take them to the ones to the side and I would work with them. I actually taught. Not every teacher is the same. We actually do teach. Some don't, and I'm just saying because there are some teachers that don't, for real, for real. But when I did the Zooms, when we was in the pandemic, me being a teacher, I have to look at everything in like a different type of space. Now we had parents that didn't know how to even operate Zoom, and these teachers just assume, we're just going to jump everybody on Zoom. They're just going to figure it out along the way. No, what I did with my class is I actually taught the parents on how to go use the Zoom, what classes are what in detail. Because a lot of times they just throw a bit emoji on something and just do these parents. These parents are like, well, I don't even know. Half of them don't even know how to log into Facebook. Some of them, you got like grandparents raising other younger
Mm-hmm.
kids. So like,
Google Classroom was a big technological barrier
Right.
for
yeah.
the
And see,
parents.
that's the thing. A good teacher will spot out the issues up front, so it can be accessible. I'm not saying the responsibility should be all on the parent. No, I'm saying it should be a team effort, though. I mean, a lot of times you got. I know before I became a teacher, I didn't know what the heck a curriculum was, and nobody wanted to tell me. I didn't know what a curriculum was, so I became a teacher. And a curriculum is pretty much the outline of everything you're going to learn for that year. And if you got a good curriculum, they go by each month and everything like that. So as now that I know that information, I'm going to be expecting that. Now I'm going to be like, yo, what's your curriculum? Let me see what my kids going to be learning for the school year. So
Right.
I feel like
We
it's
didn't
a
have it.
team effort because we do have your kids pretty much the majority of the day. I mean, and I'm not saying that y'all not, the parents not responsible. I'm saying we have your kids too. And a lot of times it's the social emotional part that these kids are not understanding. That's becoming a problem with them. With the kids I got, it's not necessarily the educational part. It is social emotional. A lot of kids that I've taught have been abused or are in abusive situations and stuff, and it's messing with these kids mentally. So they have to come to me, and I have to teach them social skills, cognitive skills. Like I got to teach them how to think before they react. I get a lot of kids that they seen so much in the home that it messes with their mental. Even at 4, we're talking about 5 and 6 and 7-year-olds that I teach.
And so that goes back to the systematic conversation, right? Because to just start at, well, parents need to be doing
Mm-hmm.
this.
Right back to
Well,
it.
you're talking about children, you're talking about inmates, you're talking about orphans, you're talking about drug addict parents. And so that's what the public school system is doing anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about the public school system. Not to say everybody is, because of course my son is not, right? But this has always been the ongoing conversation around even truancy, right? Like when is the parent responsible? So just so you guys know, I'm actually in favor of completely dismantling the current education system, which is built to industrialize America. It has really nothing to do with the way we live today.
Don't even talk about money.
It doesn't talk about money. And I believe that there should be 4 components to the new educational system. And one of those components is absolutely homeschooling. Because of my son, I see a place for the community and the social emotional kind of piece and relating to peers and others, where there still is that need. And I also see a place for specialized academic rigor being given, whether it's to close gaps or it is to further challenge higher capabilities. So that's my stance on that anyway. And by the way, I had a child that absolutely did better because I was sitting next to him. but everybody wasn't able to sit next to their kids. People had to go to work. That's just the reality, right? So the system is fragile, and it was challenged and pushed to the edge on every angle, right? You can't just be like, well, you should have did this. Well, most of the parents I know are pretty actually good parents. I was one that was able to just sit at home, and there were others, right? I only have one child, others have four, right? Whatever. And it was really no good way to do that thing for 2 years. That's why for me, it was more of like, it needed to be a rebaselining, and great if you didn't have any deficits or you didn't regress in any way. But let's just assume everybody did, because the teachers had never taught on Zoom. So there was a learning curve associated with that. What does classroom management look like on Zoom?
A lot of mute and a lot of breakout room for you.
Right. Right, breakout room.
So it was all, everybody was learning.
That's why I said, right, we were all learning, but that was the biggest thing that I used to push for, was like, just work with your kids with what you can at home. So
but how many of you guys, what age groups you guys teach though? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Your son is how old your son, Miss Melinda? Your son is 11 or 12?
11.
11. Strat, how old are the kids you teach?
6, 7, and 8.
6, 7, and 8. What about you, Tatiana?
6, 7, and 8 grade. He's saying 6, 7, 8 grade. So
grade 6, 7, 8.
That's like,
I teach preschool kids.
Per son.
Yeah, I teach preschool kids. But when the pandemic hit,
I taught you would see that more.
So like what I'm saying is that the programs for the preschool kids are like already within the system, like ABC Mouse, or it was something, not saying we use ABC Mouse, but there were programs that were designed that was already in there. Versus, so you didn't really have to sit with the teacher probably for a couple minutes, and then after that, like it was all like computer generated games like that would fit for the lesson. So and then at the Boys and Girls Club, I had a mix of different things. So it was even more complicated because you go from a preschool that already have the embedded assignments and lessons already in there. And it's a lot easier doing that because I actually talked to the teachers that actually had to make those lesson plans with that. It's a heck of a lot easier than doing it on paper. But then you got, like, I had high schoolers that didn't have the same thing. So where I was working at was, you had to know everything. Boys and Girls Club is not like a school. It's literally an after school program. So it just so happened that when I worked at was a shuttle. So like I would have kids in 7th and 8th grade on one side. I would have preschool on another, preschool, first, second on the other side. So I would take that special time because a good teacher would know like which one of their kids either have issues with or have IEPs or can't sit still. I knew those kids because I know my list, and they also gave us background information. So the ones of the kids that I knew that could not do that, I was set aside because I had experience working with kids like that. I would set them aside and I would work with them. We had 2 teachers in each classroom. So like the other teacher would help with the instructional part with all the other kids. So like, I just feel like I get what you're saying about not agreeing with the public education system, because, and I can't believe I'm saying this. I agree with that because I've seen how dirty things are behind the scenes. You know what I mean?
Well, my strongest musicians are the kids outside of school, not the ones inside.
Mm-hmm. Right, because what do they have though?
They have their parents beside them.
They have those foundations, right? That's a good support, and that's what I'm saying.
So what are you doing with the kids who don't have that, Miss Tatiana? Because that's what the public school is there for.
I push them harder.
But that's what the public school is there for. That's what it's there for. It's for we publicly pay.
That's the thing. But that's right, and I get that, and what we did for those kids is we a lot like Dion said, we had parents come in, we had other people come in, but the problem is if they don't have a foundation at home and nobody can make them get on the computer, I just couldn't reach those kids. It was impossible. Like, I'm just going to be honest. We had kids you couldn't reach because their parents didn't make, oh, I can't make them get on the computer, I can't make them do
Oh
this.
yes.
They weren't coming in beforehand. That sector of kids, it's like the apple spoiling bunch. Those sector of kids literally didn't spoil the kids that wanted to learn, but now that we're back in school and they have to come back to school, they're spoiling the other kids. And I feel like parents need to be held accountable in that sense, because there are other parents that were doing what they were supposed to be doing. And that's why I said there were kids that didn't get on Zoom, but their parents made them clean. Them parents made them be social. So when they came back to school, that's like my hardest part of the day. Sit down. Can you do this? Can you do that? Literally, if I could just get you to sit down for at least 15 minutes, we're not even talking the whole class. Get you to sit down, give you 5 minutes to get together and sit down for 15 minutes. We be good. We're not at that point yet. Where kids as a whole can sit down for 15, 20 minutes because parents didn't make them, but they can sit in front of a computer and play a video game. Like the options of what the kids do. So for us, the kids that we could reach out to, the parents that they did do, we did kind of what Dion said. We made those extra constraints. But if we can't get to you, there's no getting to you. If you can't get on if you weren't getting on the computer, we weren't getting to you. The other kids, we made them come to school as soon as kids were starting to be able to come in school. The kids that didn't make it online made it in the school first before the other ones. That way we could get them back in there. But the constraints of what was supposed to happen, what I was told, what other people were told was, oh, you need to learn how to get my child to do this stuff. And I'm like, okay, but you have the foundation of this is important, that manners matter, that being kind to people, that making sure listening and all that matters. Even like crossing the street, looking both ways, like all that had like gone out the window. And that's something that a parent teaches a kid before you come to school. That's not, I'm not going to say it's not the responsibility of the teacher, because I will do it if I have to, but that should not be left on a teacher. Oh, you should teach my kid. That's not it. That's
Well,
not
I
it.
think
Like,
if you were my educator, I would be having a real long, in-depth conversation about where you draw the
right.
line as to what you should be teaching. Because I'm
I'm
gonna have
not
some
saying that I'm
issues
not
with
going to
somebody like,
teach
I
you.
ain't teaching you to cross the street. Why?
No, but
You
I'm
teaching
not saying
whatever
that
you
I'm
gotta
not going
teach.
to. Right. But how am I going to teach it if you're not backing me up? That's my issue. I don't have
Well,
no
I mean,
problem you
my
coming
point
and,
is
hey, my
that
kid is having this, but how am I supposed to do that if you're not reaching me? That's my issue. You tell me, oh, my kid's having this problem, I'm going to make the way to get to what you need. But my problem is if you tell me, like I say, hey, this is what we need to make your kid do whatever, and like so that you can learn, I have no problem doing that. But how am I supposed to do that if you don't want to do that at home? We're not talking. That's the issue that we're having, that we're not connecting, as in Dion says, connecting to make it happen. I don't have a problem doing that. That's not it. Like, it's just that if I'm the only person doing it at school and then they go home and they don't have that rule at home, they don't have that background, how are we supposed to make that stick in school?
yeah, well,
How am I
nobody
supposed to make their
nobody
learning?
was crossing streets during the pandemic because we was in the house. I mean, and so
Right,
I
but when
think,
they come back, how are they supposed to cross the street?
but
How are they supposed to cross the street when they have to come back?
the reality of the fact is there were things that teachers didn't do that they normally do in the classroom because they couldn't, and there are things that didn't happen in the house because it couldn't happen. Like, I think to try to assign like, oh, you as a parent are a failure, because I mean, maybe, but maybe not. Like, I think that's not enough grace for anybody in the system. And importantly, in the public school system, which I chose, I didn't have to. I have the means to put my son elsewhere, and frankly, I'm looking to do that now. But in the public school system, you are going to have kids that don't have that support, and so you have to figure out what it is you're going to do for that population of children. And we were in a space that nobody had been before, so that there were a lot of gaps on both sides.
Right,
I'm
of
trying to
course.
understand.
And
I'm trying to understand in 2 years, the kids like bump their head, like they don't know nothing no more. It's an acclimation period, just like it is when you come back to school over summer. So it's just going to take longer. But it's not if unless they were already just completely, you know, intractable. Like you couldn't deal with them anyway.
Right,
I
but the
gotta.
point of right, but there was supposed to be a try portion of that. We were trying as teachers, parents were trying as their parents, but there's others that didn't do that. And like you said, like there's things we didn't do in the classroom, things that we did do in the classroom. But if you came to us and said, hey, this is what I'm struggling with, we would try to make the folds. But it's just like you have foundations at home. Let me take this because Dion can understand this. At a fifth grade, people bring their kids at 5 years old, they're supposed to be in kindergarten, never did their ABCs with them, don't know their colors, don't know anything, and bring them to school and go, here, you learn. This is the point that I'm talking about here. Make some type of foundation so I have something to go on. And if I don't have a foundation, let me know I don't have a foundation. They brought the kids back to the school this year and was like, here you go. I'm like, well, did your kid get online? Did your kid? I don't know what they did. I don't know anything. We don't have a whole group of parents that went, oh, like they weren't honest. They weren't truthful. Like, hey, my kid didn't get on. You have to go back and look at their paperwork, like Dion said, and find out that they didn't do it. And we're back here back sourcing with no hope. So what I'm saying is that if you didn't get it online and then your kid didn't make it, and then you were like, hey, I just told him to make sure he got up in the morning, wash his face, clean, do this, do that. I would have appreciated that more as a teacher than you to tell me nothing at all and be like that my kid was doing stuff. I honestly would have been happier knowing what I was walking into, but I walked into stuff and we all did not knowing that, and that was what make it hard. I'll go to extra mile, but how am I supposed to go to extra mile and I don't know where I'm going?
I would just say you have to baseline, period, as a teacher. You can't take the
right.
You
And
you just have to. And
right,
furthermore,
but there was
when it comes to that communication, and I think Dion, you hit on it. As a very involved type A parent, things changed. Like I literally did not, and I have a lot of friends that are like me. I didn't hear from no teachers. They weren't asking no specific questions around what he did. I mean, it was, and I understand that because it was a different setup. Everybody had to kind of figure out like, how do I do this? And so I for me, I had grace for the whole situation. And it wasn't like, oh my God, these teachers are horrible. Like I just explained to you, I had a colleague of a different persuasion that was very clear about, I want my money back, my taxes, because my 5-year-old is not being taught anything. And so that's the thing, right? Like we know when you know what you're supposed to be getting with your taxes, we talked about that before, then you got to be real about this is what public education is. You can take your money out and go to in private, and maybe you'll have more control over what you can complain about, right? But
really,
yeah, but I mean, but that goes both ways. That goes both ways. Because if you're in public school, you're educating public school children. Right? So now you know what you're dealing with, because the taxes are paying for those kids. It's not somebody pulling money out there, a direct account, and paying tuition. So it goes both ways.
The value of paying for school and the value of not paying for school, the demographics of kids is totally different.
Very different. Very different.
Those kids might be automatically going to college. Somebody's coming to look at them, see them. While another kid is definitely going to have a tougher road because they can't hear because someone else is distracting.
It's for me very, very important because I'm the product of a public school system. So I grew up talking about this, right? But we are the people who made it and excelled and did great. But we are a product of Detroit public schools, which is not, altogether different from, for example, DC public schools, right? And so you want to believe that you can do well in public school.
Right. And it ain't Delaware public schools now we're talking about over there.
Yeah, right. But you want to believe that. And so I was on a focus group for DC public schools, and it was a white lady actually who was just categoric about this thing. She was like, everybody deserves to have a good quality public school available to them. So this is the whole charter school debate. This is the whole voucher debate, right? There have been many debates around this, but that white lady, and I mean, honestly, it's the same way even in the city in DC. Certain people are going to demand that their public school is good enough because they know they pay taxes there, and they don't want to put
Right.
extra money into the system that they don't feel like they should have to, because that's not what the Department of Education says we're supposed to have to do. Um, so it's an issue with public school anyway. Period. Like this whole thing, and that
Right.
is why I said what I said. As far as, just so you know, I believe that the whole system should have been redesigned, as opposed to trying to get back to
I agree with
something.
that. I definitely agree with that.
You mean right now? Like right now it should be totally designed, totally overhauled. You mean totally right now? Right now we need to come up with a whole new system.
No, I think it really should have been a part of what we were doing with pandemic planning, and it would be huge, but it's necessary anyway. So, for example, the universities were and are still having those conversations for the same reasons, right? Because I pay tuition, but I'm not getting what I was getting when I was going into the classroom. If I'm teaching myself, I ain't paying you what I was paying you before. So universities got it very directly.
That
And so the
definitely makes sense.
yeah, it was a big deal. And public university, I mean, that's one of the reasons why, we went over the vaccine and how people had to get back to stuff. It was important because these institutions losing too much money, right? Um, it was a big deal. And frankly, even before the pandemic, my university, when I did my MBA, we had a whole study about the relevance of the typical kind of 4-year degree and degree program, I should say, not the degree, but the degree program. Because as people do more and more on their own and online and remote, it just shifts, right? Like people are not going to be willing to pay the premium that you pay for some of these schools. That program that I was in for 21 months cost me $155,000.
God.
The kids who were I graduated in 2019. So the class after me was a pandemic class. Now, I was in a program that was executive format, so we were remote already a lot of times. But then there were some very critical components that were together that they weren't able to do. I'm sure that they question, well, why am I paying all this money?
Mm.
I definitely question that part, Miss Melinda, about how the money is how it's generated and where it goes. I definitely question that part. That's why I said when you was like that you were home, I was like, I definitely believe that parents should have got paid, and people did, because in other countries they did do that, which gave incentive for you to be able to teach your child, or at least make sure that your home was taken care of. So I totally believe that too, but it's a little different here. But I definitely believe that it should be an overhaul, because our education is totally different from other places.
Yeah. Well, before I even think about going, mm, it's actually been a quite a conversation for the many. I really, really thought that we was going to have a conversation about how this world was going to build and make a better plan for all of us, but the plan hasn't really been going too well. Even in education, it's been kind of horrible, actually. So now y'all telling me education should be revamped and overhauled. We can't be protected educationally nor physically secured. Mm, America. Mm. We'll see what happens on that. I believe, one day the world was actually changing when the Black Panthers wanted to actually make their own people that were suffering and give them free reduced lunch. Instead, someone takes that over. I digress on that. I digress. As I say, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about your businesses before we actually go. And our businesses have really been brought to you by the ATS and what the ATS builds. And we're still, we're our Mexit news, where the middle class news, we talk about all of the middle class world and what's been happening in the world. So, the ATS is really built to, it's a platform that we've already been on for so long. We've been on it for about 2 years. So you can go to the ATS and watch every episode from start to finish. So just check us out. And before I even go, I really want to talk to Miss Tatiana and tell me a little bit about your business and what you actually do.
Tatiana Amore. I am the owner of Amore Blue. I make customized jewelry, including waist beads, bracelets, anklets, all of those. I'm also an artist and art preserver and customized clothing maker. You can find me at Linktree. All my links are there. That'd be Facebook, Instagram. Um, what else do I have? The list goes on. TikTok, all of that can be found right on there, and you can see what I've been making.
Miss Melinda.
Absolutely, it's always a pleasure. Melinda Woods, founder of Mental Massage, a self care business for women in leadership, offering a variety of services. And right now, I'm excited about publishing a guidebook to go along with the services. You can find Mental Massage at mentalmassagewellness.com, mentalmassagewellness.com, Mental Massage Wellness on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Really in a kind of preparation stage. Some things coming towards the end of the year. Looking forward to that, and I am definitely also executing on my consulting business, where I'm helping businesses to understand how to work with this government that we have, how to uh, get supply chain that they want to have, if it is that they want to have Black owned, for example, businesses, how to identify those things as well. So, Melinda Woods out here doing it, financial investments, self care for women in leadership, mental massage, and consulting.
And Mr. Dion, my newbie of the group.
Yes.
Give us a little bit about you and what you actually do and what are you actually doing. Your platform would be great.
Oh man, let's see. Well, I'm an educator. I taught for about 15 plus years, and now I'm a behavior specialist. Excuse me, behavior support specialist. Um, I love what I do. I work with ages mm, preschool, first, second, first and second grade. Um, I love my job. I love kids. I'm one of those type of people that feel like, definitely believes that our kids are our future, and we have to really make sure that we guide these kids into the right direction. So I actually care about my class and about the students that I teach each day. I do have a platform. You catch me on TikTok at Ronan Black. Um, I do a little bit of everything on there. Dabble in politics, dabble in comedy. It's a little bit of everything. I'm very known for speaking my mind, so it's not G-rated. So, but yeah, like I said, you can catch me on TikTok, Ronan Black, and my backup account is Ronan Black 84. It's been nice though. I like this though.
For real, Mr. Dion, that's what's up, yo.
Yeah.
This show has actually been, it's a really great show. The best part about it is, Miss Melinda. I've known Miss Melinda for a very long time, and I know Miss Tatiana. You know Miss Tatiana as well. So this is much more of a family, and you just coming in. I've already known you, so Miss Melinda is kind of the only one that really doesn't know you. But I played with Dion for so long and marched with him in the marching band. So I was his section leader, so he's heard me holler and scream at him. And yes,
Yeah.
yes, some of the stories, I please no, please no. But but in the hindsight is we're all family, and that's the biggest part about it. It's hard to cut a family short when you can always give the family that you need the information that they need. So that's the best part about it, and I love that you came on the show, and I appreciate that you brought your intellect in here. And it wasn't bad. I can't wait till whenever I get to one of these little subjects that might be a little bit testy, that the women might,
This
do.
wasn't testy. I'm about to say, like, one thing I like about the show is the different views I hear.
It
Like
wasn't testy.
Melinda, I've never. It's great. I mean, it's cool talking to somebody that thinks the whole, differently. I just like y'all different opinions, different views, and it's just really good. I like this platform. Thank you guys for allowing me to be on here, and thank you for allowing me to be with you guys in this group. I really appreciate it.
Miss Tatiana, you gonna put that on there though? For real? For real? Is that what we doing right now?
Well, can't nobody see it but us. You the one that pulled it out. Don't do that.
I didn't say it. I didn't say it though.
See
See the difference from Dion and me? I didn't say it.
Right, but you brought attention to it. You ain't have to put it out there like that.
No, well, people in the chat, they gotta look for themselves. They gotta hit y'all up for that. They can't. That's a no. They hit y'all up. They gotta go find, seek, and ye shall find knowledge. So therefore, there you go. So I'm just gonna say this has been a great show, and I want you guys to just definitely come back and enjoy yourselves on the Unpopular Sisters Op. I appreciate you. We definitely might come up with a new beat. I do have an album coming out soon, so you can come to the area. Classes in session. I started a new music studio at my school, and I'm definitely gonna be dropping the album once I finish all the copyrights and everything. It's gonna be kind of pretty sweet, bittersweet. So as I say, before I go, the music's gonna start. It's where our heart is at. So have a good one. That's all I gotta say is
on the Unpopular Opinion. We have author of Surviving Tough Times, Misunderstood Adrian, entrepreneur, Miss Amor Blue, Tatiana, owner of Mental Massage, Melinda, your host, Stradivari, on the Unpopular Opinion. So let me ask you, ladies, I definitely want to know about Nick Saban and Deion Sanders, the Breonna Taylor story, and how the $15,000 come deep in the heart of Texas. On the Sisters Op, hey, we got a new man in town.
have a great one.